There are climbs, there are legends. And then there's Alpe D'Huez. A mountain that doesn't just challenge riders, it defines them. 21 hairpins, 13.8 kilometers, an average gradient of 8%. It's not the longest climb in the Tour de France, nor the steepest, or even the highest. And yet, no summit looms larger in cycling's collective imagination. Each bend is etched with a name, each name etched into history. To understand the near mythological weight of Alpe D'Huez, you need more than a map or a gradient chart. You need the stories, the showdowns, the spectacles. Today, we're tracing just some of the unforgettable moments that made this mountain immortal. The legend begins in 1952. The Tour de France had never dared to finish on top of a mountain before, but that summer, a dusty, narrow, unpaved road to a ski station in the Alps became the experiment that would redefine the race. It was a gamble, a test, and it became an instant classic. Fastal Coppi, already a two-time Tour winner, though seemingly past his prime, chose that moment to remind the world who he was. He soared up the Alpe in 45 minutes and 22 seconds. It made him, forever, the first rider to ever win a mountaintop finish in the Tour. Flash forward 24 years. It's 1976, and the Tour returns to Alpe d'Huez. This time, with a new type of character in the spotlight, the Dutch. That year, Joop Zoetemelk, one of the most consistent Grand Tour riders in history, went head-to-head with Belgian Lucien Van Impe in an all-out war on the slopes. Zoetemelk won the duel, but the fans won something more. Dutch supporters, ecstatic over their hero's victory, had claimed a spot on the mountain, and they didn't just set up shop, they moved in. Since then, Dutch Corner has become a Tour institution. Tens of thousands of orange-clad fans gather there every time the Alpe returns, turning one corner into a wild, chaotic, delirious carnival. You don't have to be Dutch to feel it. You just have to pass through. 1984 marked another kind of first. For the first time, the Tour opened its doors to amateur riders, many of whom came from nations with no tradition in European road racing. One of them was a wiry Colombian named Luis Herrera. Colombia had never produced a stage winner. In fact, Latin American riders were often dismissed as under-equipped and underprepared for the demands of the Tour. But that day, on Alpe d'Huez, all of that changed. Herrera attacked solo and flew up the climb with an elegance and fire that stunned the cycling world. He became the first South American and the first amateur to win a Tour de France stage. His victory was more than a win. It was a door flung open. From that moment on, the legacy of Colombian climbers, Nairo Quintana, Egan Bernal, Rigoberto Urán, found its roots in the 21 bends of Alpe d'Huez. Sometimes, the most iconic moments aren't about history. They're about tension. In 1986, the Tour was consumed by drama between two teammates, Greg LeMond and Bernard Hinault. LeMond, the rising star, Hinault, the aging champion. They were both on the same team, but fighting for the same jersey. Alpe d'Huez became a stage for their Cold War to boil over. Hinault attacked, claiming it was to pressure rivals, but most saw it as a move to rattle LeMond. LeMond responded, calm, controlled, defiant. The two ended up riding side by side, climbing pedal stroke for pedal stroke. They reached a summit hand in hand, smiles wide for the cameras. Make no mistake, those smiles were theater. LeMond would go on to win the Tour, America's first. Hinault retired. That image, two rivals locked in a PR truce at the top of the Alpe, still hangs in cycling's collective memory. 1995 gave us perhaps the greatest pure climbing performance Alpe d'Huez has ever seen. Marco Pantani, the pirate, the angelic climber with fire in his legs and poetry in his motion. That day, he attacked so early it looked reckless. He passed every rider in front of him, one by one, as if they were stuck in another gear or another dimension. He was so fast, he nearly overshot the final corner. He won by nearly 90 seconds over Indurain, one of the sport's biggest names. Yes, the era was dirty, and yes, his career was marred by tragedy and scandal. But on that day, on those slopes, he was untouchable, an artist painting a masterpiece. Lance Armstrong, the myth, the man, the contradiction. Few riders have owned the Alpe the way he did, both in presence and performance. In 2001, he gave us the look. As he led the charge up the climb, Armstrong turned his head and stared into Jan Ullrich's soul. Seconds later, he attacked and disappeared. He said afterward it wasn't personal and that he wasn't even looking at Ullrich, but the cameras still disagree. Then, 2004. For the first time ever, Alpe d'Huez would host an individual time trial. Nearly 1 million fans lined the slope, stretching all the way up the 13 kilometers like a ribbon of sound and fury. Armstrong won that day by over a minute. It was dominance distilled into one day, and it put to rest any question of who would win his sixth tour. Of course, we all know what happened later, but for better or worse, his shadow still lingers on the Alpe. Thibaut Pinot was never just a rider. He was a hero, a hope, and a heartbreak waiting to happen. But in 2015, he gave French fans something they desperately needed. On the penultimate day of the tour, Pino attacked. No tactics, no tricks, just pure heart. The cheers followed him like a wave. French fans roared from every corner of the climb, urging him towards the summit. And when he crossed the line alone, arms aloft, it wasn't just a stage win. It was a collective sigh of relief and a burst of national pride. A rare, perfect moment. He wasn't the first Frenchman to win here, but few did it with such emotional resonance. 2024 wasn't just historic, it was overdue. For the first time ever, the Tour de France Femmes tackled Alpe d'Huez. And just like that first day in 1952, it didn't disappoint. On the Queen stage, everything was at stake. Demi Vollering attacked early, throwing down the gauntlet in a bid to take yellow. But Kasia Niewiadoma wasn't ready to give up the fight. She climbed like a woman possessed, gritting, clawing, chasing. At the top, she had just 4 seconds to spare. 4 seconds. That was the difference between keeping yellow and losing it. But for both riders, their names are now etched in stone. Because no matter what happens next, there'll always be the first woman to battle on cycling's great, most sacred climb. Alpe d'Huez is more than a climb. It's a rite of passage, a place where champions are crowned and legends are born. From Coppi to Vollering, from Hinault to Pino, each name is a thread in the tapestry of a mountain that never forgets. Because every July, the road remains the same, but the stories always change.